Hello, my name is William Rowell, and on behalf of Darla Fay, Kyle Fraser, and Adam Friedman, I would like to take you on a process account of our journey to address the problem: how can we facilitate ill-structured problem solving in a standards-based context? Reflecting at this end of the process, we all agree. This is a big and complex question, one that is immensely ill-structured in and of itself. There were many different paths to take and arguments to follow right from the get-go, and we needed to find ways to help us coordinate this endeavor. Using the research done by us and our classmates on digital tools to support collaborative inquiry, we selected a few platforms to use to support our process from the beginning. First, we selected Skype, a voice and video conferencing program that allowed us to speak live with one another over the long distances at our convenience. We used this to great effect throughout the whole process to brainstorm, collaborate, and share ideas amongst our group. We also use Slack, a great meeting point for all the different technologies that we implemented. Slack operates at first like a instant messaging service where we are all able to join and share our ideas in text format in a way that remembers them for reviewing afterwards. We were able to create distinct channels to organize our thoughts and processing. We were also able to share files and information here in a quick and convenient manner. And finally, we were able to link ourselves to all the different platforms that we were using within this document itself. And through that, we were very organized in being able to use these different platforms and integrate it all into one place. A third platform that we used was Mural. This is a brainstorming and organizational platform that we use primarily in the brainstorming part of our process that allowed us to visually organize all the different concepts and ideas and link the connections between them throughout the early part of our process. We'll be going over this a little bit more shortly. Finally, we used Google Docs at the latter parts of our process to collaborate on making the final product. Google Docs is a platform that allows live editing between multiple members. You can see some of my team members here are logged in right now, putting final edits on our process. It also allowed for comments and messaging to be shared and embedded notes to be included as we work through editing and working through ideas when we were not able to converse on Skype all at the same time. All of these platforms have been collated into a portfolio that you'll be able to view in the main link in our project if you so choose. Alongside these platforms, we also focused our process through Nelson's design problem framework, which we overview, analyze, and discuss in detail in our report that helped us find some structure in this ill-structured exploration of an extremely ill-structured field. Within this framework, designers begin by identifying and naming the problem at hand, working to identify the main issues of the problem. Next, they frame the problem by establishing its limits, which include understanding the scope of the problem, what it can or cannot address, and any constraints or restrictions on its design. Then, the designers move to take experimental design action and actually produce or design something. Finally, they reflect on the whole process, including the final product, to determine if they actually accomplish what they set out to do, and also to learn from the process to inform their work in either the subsequent re-examination of the design problem or in design problems they tackle in the future. Now, we're going to take a look at what the process looked like for us. This naming part of our process began in Slack. We first created channels to organize our work around, and initially, in our first Skype meeting, thought about using Slack to coordinate our research, but we quickly found that the messaging style format was a bit clunky for sharing that type of information. Realizing this early, we decided to pull that information into the platform Mural to center the naming portion of our process around. Within Mural, we began by re-examining the burning questions that had led us to form our group together in the first place. Although we had a common interest to explore ill-structured problems, we knew we needed to focus on something more specific. During this first Skype conversation, we brainstormed and discussed different directions we could approach this topic from, and settled on a rough question to look into further by diving into the literature. Over the next few days, we gathered and posted information on the resources that sparked our curiosity or touched on the topics we had discussed. As we reviewed each other's postings, we also drew connections between what had been discovered. It was at this stage where we realized that our project was itself an ill-structured problem. So we also began thinking more intentionally about how our process aligned with the frameworks brought up in the literature. We had another meeting at this point where we collated the best of the ideas and concepts we had come across thus far. Then, each of us took some time to clearly lay out in writing what our personal perspective was at that point in time. We read these statements aloud, analyzed the emergent patterns common to our thinking, and spent a while discussing where to go next. We decided then to split up into two smaller teams to explore what we believed were the two most promising leads: problem based learning and design thinking. Over the next few days, these teams returned to the literature, this time focusing specifically on our focus topics, and worked together to add all of the new findings into Mural. At the end of the second research phase, we had another Skype meeting wherein we discussed our findings, refined our problem question, and determined what our process moving forward would look like. With most of our brainstorming and research wrapped up, we stepped away from Mural and shifted to the workspace we thought would better support a more formal development of our findings and ideas: Google Docs. This also marked the end point of step 1 in our design process. Phases 2, 3, and 4 of our design process proceeded primarily through Google Docs and Skype, with Slack working in the background to keep all of our various documentation, meeting times, and side conversations organized. We began with a rough draft document, a place where everyone could throw their work into, no matter how unfinished or incomplete it was, in order to show others what they were working through, pose questions, or ask for help. We spent a couple of days collating our research into an overview of ill-structured problem solving, problem-based learning, and design learning, and all of the relevant analyses and critiques of these topics. These disparate elements were slowly brought together through a lot of editing and dialogue into an organized whole in our good draft documentation. With our problem well framed, we followed a similar process in step 3, moving to take experimental action. It was at this point where we transitioned from step 2 to step 3. It was in this step where we developed our prototypes. Both groups first developed a rough outline of their prototype. Then, we held a meeting where we shared our ideas and borrowed from one another's insights to improve our own designs. Our final designs were then moved into the formal documentation. The final step of our process was reflection. This piece had multiple parts for us. To begin, we decided as a group that it would be valuable for each of us to attempt to run a curriculum idea we had through our prototype models to see if they were reasonable and practical frameworks for our actual practice. During this process, we reflected on the strength of the models themselves. At the beginning of the process, we had a vision to spend some time comparing and assessing our models beside one another at the end of the reflection process. However, as we continued to learn more about ill-structured problem solving, the awareness that context and domain-specific adaptations for any ill-structured model meant that direct comparisons were all but impossible. Consequently, we decided to let our 4 designs that were expressed through our 2 prototypes stand as 4 separate answers to our original problem question. Each answers the question in a way that is relevant to our 4 unique contexts. We are very proud of each of them. The final step of reflection was to create a process account that highlighted how we use an ill-structured design learning framework to organize our own process and this project, the part of the process you're experiencing right now. All in all, although this topic was unwieldy and too complex at times, it gave us a deep appreciation for the process of ill-structured problem solving, an appreciation we hope reflects in the quality of our curricular designs. You can explore our brainstorming and design processes, as well as our final report paper, at your leisure by following the links provided in our online portfolio. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy and find some value in our exploration of ill-structured problem solving facilitation.